The Human Mercenaries. Part 1. The SS Vanguard glided through the void of space, its sleek silver hull reflecting the distant light of stars. The crew aboard the exploration vessel prepared for their mission, responding to a distress signal from a remote mining colony on the edge of known space. The colony, once a bustling hub of activity, now lay shrouded in an eerie silence, surrounded by desolate landscapes and unknown dangers. Captain Zara stood at the helm, her emerald green scales glinting under the bridge's dim lights. Her deep amber eyes scanned the data feeds as she briefed her crew. "We've received a distress signal from the colony on Maros IV. All contact was lost 3 days ago. Our mission is to investigate and provide assistance if necessary." Beside her, First Officer Kale adjusted the advanced instruments attached to his streamlined uniform. His silver skin glowed faintly, bioluminescent patterns shifting with his thoughts. "Initial scans show no signs of life, Captain. We should proceed with caution." Engineer Rock, a massive figure with granite-like skin and 4 powerful arms, grunted in agreement. "I've prepped all systems, Captain. We'll be ready for anything." In the medical bay, Dr. Nisa, with her ethereal, semi-transparent body and delicate wings, checked her diagnostic devices. "I'll be ready to assist any survivors we find," she said, her voice soft yet resolute. As the Vanguard descended onto the surface of Maros IV, the crew disembarked and surveyed the desolate colony. The once bustling settlement was now a ghost town, with flickering lights casting long shadows and strange noises echoing through the empty streets. Signs of a violent struggle were evident: scorched walls, overturned equipment, and ominous stains on the ground. Among the wreckage, they found John, the lone survivor. His rugged appearance and dark eyes spoke of countless battles fought and won. Dressed in a practical, dark-colored uniform, he stood amidst the ruins, a beacon of resilience. Captain Zara approached him cautiously. "John, I presume, can you tell us what happened here?" John's gaze was steady. "The colony was attacked by something unnatural. Shadows that moved on their own, whispering voices that drove people mad. I did what I could to protect them, but it wasn't enough." As he spoke, the atmosphere grew heavier, the air thick with tension and unease. The crew exchanged wary glances, understanding the gravity of their mission. They had faced dangers before, but this felt different, darker and more insidious. Kale's bioluminescent patterns flickered with concern. "We need to gather more information. There might be survivors hiding or critical data that could explain what we're dealing with." Rock's granite-like face set in determination. "I'll check the colony's power systems. Maybe we can get some of the logs back online." Nissa nodded, her wings shimmering. "I'll search for any signs of life. Even one survivor could make a difference." As they began their tasks, a faint, mocking whisper seemed to drift through the air, sending chills down their spines. John remained calm, his eyes scanning the shadows. "Stay alert. This isn't over yet." In the tense silence that followed, a negative comment about humans echoed in the background. "Humans are always getting into trouble," someone muttered. Captain Zara, her eyes fierce, responded, "Humans are resilient and adaptable. We'll need every bit of that to survive this." With their mission set and determination in their hearts, the crew of the SS Vanguard braced themselves for the horrors yet to come. The shadows seemed to close in around them, and the whispers grew louder, but they stood united, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Part 2. The crew of the SS Vanguard moved cautiously through the desolate corridors of the Maros IV colony. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional flicker of failing lights. Shadows danced on the walls, and strange whispering voices seemed to echo from unseen corners, putting everyone on edge. John, the lone survivor, led the way. His long, dark, stringy hair framed a face hardened by countless battles. A beard and mustache outlined his piercing eyes, which seemed to see right through the darkness. His rugged appearance was accentuated by a black galactic trench coat that flowed behind him as he moved with a predator's grace. Every step he took was deliberate, every glance sharp and assessing. Captain Zara walked beside him, her scaled skin reflecting the dim light. "What exactly are we up against, John?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension. John's eyes flicked to the shadows. "I don't know what it is, but it preys on fear. It gets inside your head, makes you see things. The whispers, they drive people mad." As if on cue, a whisper seemed to slither through the air, sending chills down their spines. Kale, his silver skin glowing with bioluminescence, scanned the area with his advanced instruments. "I'm detecting anomalous energy readings. Whatever this entity is, it's not natural." Rock, the massive engineer, grunted as he manipulated a nearby control panel with his 4 arms. "I've managed to restore partial power. Let's see if we can get some logs or surveillance footage." As the screens flickered to life, they displayed fragmented images of the colony's last moments. Colonists running, shadows attacking, and people collapsing in fits of madness. The footage was chaotic, but one thing was clear. They were dealing with something beyond their understanding. Nissa, the ethereal medical officer, moved to a console and began scanning for life signs. Her wings glowed softly in the dim light. "I'm picking up faint readings. There might be survivors in the lower levels." John's hand tightened on the grip of his sidearm. "We need to move fast. The longer we stay here, the more vulnerable we become." As they descended into the lower levels, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to press closer. The whispers grew louder, forming incoherent but maddening murmurs. The crew's tension was palpable. Suddenly, a shadow detached itself from the wall and lunged at them. John reacted instantly, his movements fluid and precise. In a blur of motion, he drew his weapon and fired, the shots echoing through the corridor. The shadow dissipated with a shriek, leaving only silence in its wake. The crew stared in shock. Kyle voiced their collective thoughts. "How did you do that?" John's piercing eyes met his. "I've fought things like this before. You have to be quick, decisive. Don't let them get inside your head." As they pressed on, the encounters with the shadow entities became more frequent. John's combat skills were put to the test, each move a testament to his lethal efficiency. His black trench coat flowed like liquid darkness, a stark contrast to the pale, flickering lights. The crew's initial skepticism of John's violent methods began to wane as they saw the necessity of his actions. Even the gruff rock admitted, "We'd be lost without him." A whispered conversation echoed down the corridor. "Humans, always causing trouble," one voice sneered. Nissa's gentle voice countered, "Humans have a way of surviving against all odds. John is proof of that." As they reached the lower levels, the life signs grew stronger. The crew's hope mingled with dread, knowing that whatever lay ahead would test them to their limits. John took point, his eyes never ceasing to scan the shadows. "Stay close, we're almost there." The sense of foreboding deepened, but with John leading the way, the crew felt a glimmer of hope. They were not alone in this fight, and with John's unparalleled skills and unwavering determination, they pressed on, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them. Part 3. As the crew of the SS Vanguard ventured deeper into the lower levels of the Maros IV colony, the air grew thick with an almost palpable darkness. The walls seemed to close in, and the whispers became more insistent, like ghostly fingers brushing against their minds. The crew's nerves were fraying, but John remained a pillar of calm amidst the encroaching madness. John's long, dark hair clung to his face, damp with sweat, but his piercing eyes never wavered. The black galactic trench coat he wore billowed behind him, making him a dark specter in the dimly lit corridors. His presence was a constant reminder of their fight for survival. "We're close," Nissa said, her voice trembling slightly. Her scans indicated life signs just ahead, but the energy readings were erratic. "Stay alert!" As they rounded a corner, they found a small group of colonists huddled in fear. Their eyes were wide with terror, and their bodies shook uncontrollably. John approached them slowly, his movements deliberate and non-threatening. "You're safe now," he said softly, kneeling beside a terrified woman. "We're here to help." The woman's eyes flicked to John's face, and she seemed to find some comfort in his calm demeanor. "The shadows. They whisper to us. They show us things. Horrible things." John's jaw tightened. "We need to get you out of here. Can you walk?" As the colonists struggled to their feet, the shadows around them seemed to ripple with malevolent intent. Kale's bioluminescent patterns flashed in alarm. "The energy readings are spiking. They're coming." Suddenly, the shadows lunged. John moved with deadly precision, his sidearm blazing. He struck with a combination of brutal efficiency and fluid grace, each shot and strike perfectly timed. The crew joined the fight, but it was John's relentless assault that kept the shadows at bay. As the last shadow dissipated, Rock panted, his rocky hide glistening with sweat. "What are these things?" John reloaded his weapon, his eyes scanning the darkness. "Manifestations of fear. They feed on it. Stay focused. Don't let them into your mind." Despite John's warnings, the psychological toll was evident. Hallucinations began to plague the crew. Kyle saw his own death replaying over and over again. He was back on his home planet, surrounded by the corpses of his loved ones, their bioluminescent patterns dimmed forever. The smell of burning flesh and the cries of the dying filled his senses, making it hard to distinguish reality from nightmare. Rock, the massive engineer, saw his creations turning against him. Machines he had built with his own hands rose up in rebellion, their cold, mechanical eyes glowing with hatred. They surrounded him, accusing him of betrayal and failure, their voices a cacophony of anger and despair. Nisa, the gentle healer, found herself in a nightmarish version of the medical bay. The patients she had saved over the years stood before her, their bodies twisted and broken, accusing her of failing them. Their wounds reopened, blood pouring out as they reached out to her, their eyes filled with pain and betrayal. Even Captain Zara, with her steely resolve, was not immune. She saw her past mistakes magnified, every wrong decision and lost crew member haunting her. The faces of those she had failed to save appeared in the shadows, their eyes accusing, their voices filled with sorrow and disappointment. John, however, seemed immune. His past experiences had hardened him against such attacks. He moved among the crew, grounding them, pulling them back from the brink. His voice was a steady anchor in the storm of madness. "Focus on what's real," he urged, shaking Kale out of his hallucination. "They're just shadows. They can't hurt you if you don't let them." The whispers grew louder, more insidious. "Humans are weak. They can't be trusted," a voice hissed. John's eyes flashed with anger. "Humans are survivors. We've faced worse than this and come out stronger." Nisa, despite her own struggles, defended him. "John's right. We need to stay united. We can get through this together." As they pressed on, the psychological attacks intensified. The crew's mental states deteriorated further, but John's unwavering presence provided a lifeline. His past was filled with horrors, but it had also forged an indomitable will. In a rare moment of vulnerability, John shared a piece of his history with Captain Zara. "I've seen friends die, seen the worst of humanity, but I've also seen incredible bravery and resilience. That's what we need now." Zara's amber eyes softened. "Thank you, John. Your strength is what's keeping us together." Finally, they reached the heart of the colony, where the energy readings were off the charts. The source of the shadow entities lay ahead, and the final confrontation loomed. John's resolve hardened. This ends now. With John leading the way, the crew steeled themselves for the ultimate test. The shadows were more than just enemies. They were manifestations of their deepest fears. But with John at their side, they felt a glimmer of hope. Part 4. The heart of the colony was a vast, cavernous chamber, filled with twisted machinery and pulsating shadows. The source of the shadow entities was a massive, writhing mass of darkness that seemed to breathe with a life of its own. The whispers were deafening now, a cacophony of malevolent voices that clawed at the crew's sanity. John stood at the forefront, his black galactic trenchcoat flowing around him like a dark aura. His piercing eyes were locked onto the entity, his resolve unshakable. The crew gathered behind him, their faces pale but determined. "We need a plan," Captain Zara said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. John nodded. "We need to disrupt its energy source. If we can overload it, we might be able to destroy it." Suddenly, a crackle came over John's comm device. A familiar voice broke through the static. "John, this is the Galactic Continental. We've got your back." Relief washed over John's face. The Galactic Continental, a group of human mercenaries who fought for good, had arrived. Their ships swooped down from the sky, and heavily armed mercenaries poured into the chamber, weapons at the ready. "Let's end this," John said, a fierce determination in his voice. The battle that ensued was a whirlwind of chaos and fury. The shadow entities surged forward, but John and the mercenaries met them head-on. John moved with lethal grace, his every strike a testament to his combat prowess. The mercenaries fought with precision and bravery, their advanced weaponry tearing through the darkness. Engineer Rock and First Officer Kyle worked frantically to overload the entity's energy source. Sparks flew as they bypassed circuits and rerouted power, their faces set in grim determination. Dr. Nisa tended to the wounded, her healing touch a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. As the battle raged, Captain Zara led the defense, her scaled form a blur of motion as she fought alongside her crew. Her voice rang out, rallying them. "Hold the line! We can do this!" John's trenchcoat billowed as he fought, his long, dark hair whipping around his face. His piercing eyes never left the entity, every movement calculated and deadly. He fought like a man possessed, his past battles fueling his fury. With a final surge of energy, Roke and Kale succeeded in overloading the power source. The entity shrieked, its form convulsing violently. John seized the moment, charging forward. He leaped into the air, his weapon blazing, and plunged it into the heart of the darkness. The entity exploded in a blinding flash of light. The shadows dissipated, and the whispers fell silent. The chamber was plunged into a stunned silence as the crew and mercenaries took in the aftermath. John stood amidst the wreckage, his breath coming in ragged gasps. He looked around at the relieved faces of his comrades and the grateful colonists they had saved. "We did it," he said softly. Captain Zara approached him, her amber eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, John. We couldn't have done it without you." John nodded, his gaze distant. "We did it together. That's what matters." As they made their way back to the surface, the crew reflected on the ordeal they had survived. The Galactic Continental mercenaries saluted John, acknowledging his leadership and bravery. One of the mercenaries, a grizzled veteran, clapped John on the shoulder. "You did good, John. The Galactic Continental is always ready to fight alongside you." John's piercing eyes softened. "Thank you. It's good to know we have allies out here." As they boarded the SS Vanguard, ready to leave the haunted colony behind, a final conversation echoed through the ship. One of the crew members, still skeptical, muttered, "Humans, always causing trouble." Nisa, her wings shimmering, smiled. "Humans also have a way of rising above it. Today proved that." Captain Zara nodded in agreement. "John's strength and determination saved us all. Never underestimate the human spirit." With their mission complete and the colony saved, the SS Vanguard soared back into the stars. The horrors they had faced were behind them, but the bonds they had forged would endure. And in the heart of it all, John remained a symbol of resilience and courage, a true hero.